Hello, this is Kent at the Wild Animal Sanctuary, once again joining you on the dodo. And as always, we really appreciate the dodo letting us share our animals with you here at the Wild Animal Sanctuary outside of Denver, Colorado in the United States. And here we are on a chilly day, even though it doesn't look like it, a chilly day, looking at some grizzly bears and some Syrian brown bears, which of course are related to grizzlies. So once again, we have pumpkins, but instead of tigers, like the last time we broadcast, we have some bears here. And there's a number of bears in this habitat. It's actually a pretty large habitat. It's 15 to 20 acres. And there's a whole bunch of Syrian brown bears, as well as a couple grizzly bears. And today we have the drone out once again. It works real well. The animals don't seem to mind it at all. To them, it's just kind of like a bird in the sky. And here we have actually Mom in the lower left and two of her almost grown children, or cubs. She has 3 cubs that will be 3 years old this winter. And one of them is just grabbing a pumpkin and going. Gonna go off and enjoy that. But I think we're gonna stay here at the pumpkin pile and see what happens. So last week it was before Halloween and we had a whole bunch of pumpkins. Obviously this time of year we get pumpkins and pumpkins and pumpkins donated to us, which we love and which our animals love. And here we are after Halloween with this bunch of pumpkins. So we're kind of in the last few days probably of seeing our bears, believe it or not. Here in Colorado we have 4 very distinct seasons. And so bears, when they move to Colorado, if they haven't ever done so before, get into the cycle of hibernating, which is simply awesome because it's so much better for the animals and their life cycle and their physiology when they get to hibernate, because bears, especially grizzly bears and brown bears and black bears, Mother Nature intended them to hibernate. A little tongue-tied here, I apologize for that. So the bear on the right, that's Mom. And the bear on the left is one of her cubs, a coming 3-year-old son of hers. And with bears, there's a lot of nonverbal communication, and sometimes it's verbal, but there's a lot of posturing, and you can see how stiff she was there. And now she's kind of driving him off the pile, and he's acquiescing. So even though he's quite a bit larger than Mom at this point, she still is Mom, and she's kind of telling him what to do. So he came back, and now she's just wandering off, and I guess she's going to just take off. And like so many moms, she's giving in and letting her children get first dibs at things. So she's going to go off. I think we're going to stay here still on the bear pile and see what this young bear does while Mom goes off there. But as I mentioned, we have lots and lots of bears in this habitat, close to a dozen. We have almost 200 bears on our property. And it is late fall here. I guess strictly speaking, it's kind of middle fall. But for us, we've had a number of days below freezing already. So all of the summer grasses and fall grasses have died off for the winter. Looks pretty brown. For some of you who are still in green parts of the country, you're probably wondering about that, but it's pretty normal for out here in Colorado, especially here on the high plains. The grass there's more grass there than you probably think, but we lose a little bit with a drone because we don't have quite the depth perception. But still, no, it's pretty barren because we're going into winter. And these bears, within a few days, if not a week or two, probably will be in their dens and going into full-blown hibernation. So right now he popped that one pumpkin open and is eating the wonderful insides. Obviously pumpkins are part of the squash family, and squash is very, very tasty. It's very nutritious. The bears love them. The bears, unlike the tigers, will play with them very often and then eat them, whereas the tigers just play with them because obviously tigers, being carnivores, aren't going to eat bear or aren't going to eat pumpkins. So we're just going to drop the drone down here a little bit, kind of keep an eye on this fella and see what's going on. In the background, you can see a neighboring bear habitat. It's a habitat of black bears. There's about 16, I think, in that habitat. You can see some of the smaller lockout cages for newer animals when we introduce them. And here behind this bear, he's just kind of rolling that over, trying to figure out how to open it up. Not that he doesn't know how. So we'll just kind of zoom in here. You can see he doesn't mind the drone at all. There he goes. Oh, a couple good pushes, and he popped it open. So that's kind of the go-to move for bears. It's why ice chests and coolers don't hold up to them, is because they're able to put all of that weight in their big old bodies on those two forelimbs, and then they pounce, and it just crushes whatever's underneath it. So he got what he was looking for, a bunch of seeds and that nice tender pulp that's inside. And if you look way back behind him, before you get into that next bear habitat, you can see one of the openings to the underground dens. There's actually many, many underground dens in this habitat, as there are in all of our habitats, even for tigers and lions and wolves. But those typically go back 30 to 50 feet, and then there's a big underground bunker, concrete bunker that stays about 60 degrees year-round. So it's a great place for bears to hibernate. And it's a great place in the summer months when it's hot here in Colorado, eastern Colorado, like it gets, for the animals to find nice, cool relief. So basically, it's like an air-conditioned room in the summer and a nice heated den in the winter. But Mother Nature provides all that because it's just like a cave down there, because it is a cave. So this fella, he is just enjoying what he earned there by opening that pumpkin up. So as I mentioned before, our bears do hibernate. These fellas, we already have a number of bears, actually maybe a majority of our bears hibernating. But before long, these bears will soon be disappearing as well. And they're in what's called the fall transition stage. Bears have kind of 5 stages to their life cycle when they hibernate. One is just normal activity. It's what they're doing most of the summer. And then in late summer, they go into hyperphagia. That's where they're looking for all those calories and all that food so that they can bulk up and prepare for the wintertime. And then once they get that appetite quelled and they start putting on enough weight, their body starts to really slow down and they get ready for hibernation itself. And this is that fall transition period. And that's why that bear isn't ravenously going into these pumpkins at this point. Still has an appetite, but it's not like it was, say, even a month ago. And his body cycle, along with all the other bears in here, is really slowing down quite a bit. There's a number of bears that are off camera that are just kind of laying down, really mellow, not very interested in these pumpkins. And they'll probably go over, once he's out of there and everything. But they're just pretty chill right now. There's not a whole lot of extra energy being exerted on things. So this is that fall transition period. Soon there'll be an actual hibernation. And then next spring, and sometimes during the late part of winter, they go into walking hibernation, where they're mobile, but they just, their bodies are still almost completely shut down. So we're just going to pan around here. Looks like Mom's coming back into the scene. So these bears all came from Ohio. They're part of a group of bears we got about 3 years ago. We got almost 24 bears from Ohio because Ohio really had to change their laws about captive wildlife, which is what we exist for, is to try to get people to not have large carnivores as pets, and we provide a home for those that are kept as pets or roadside attractions or somehow exploited. These animals belong to what's called the captive wildlife crisis. And the Wild Animal Sanctuary has been rescuing these kinds of animals for almost 40 years now. But in Ohio, they had a real problem with animals, and they found out about that in October of 2011 in Zanesville when there was a horrible situation where dozens and dozens of these large carnivore-type animals, bears, lions, tigers, wolves, leopards, had to be shot and killed because the person that owned them turned them loose. Well, as a result of that, Ohio really cracked down on people having animals like this, and if people no longer met the requirements to have them, the animals had to be given up or were confiscated. So in this situation, where these bears came from, they were confiscated, and the Wild Animal Sanctuary agreed to give them a home, and that's what we've done for the last 3 years with this particular group of bears. We have some bears on the property that we've had almost as long as we've been in existence. Bears live a long time, 30 to 40 years in captivity. And as I mentioned before, we have about 200 bears, just short of 200 bears here on the property. So we'll just kind of watch this bear here. He's been pretty enjoyable. He's opened up a number of them while I've been talking here. There's a couple bears in the background. We still have Mom on the left, one of his siblings on the right. That pumpkin's not opening so easy for him. So he's going to roll it around, try to get his teeth into it. There he goes. I saw a couple pieces. Got a hole now. And then those massive grizzly claws to rip it open. There, I think he's got what he wanted. Got his nose in there, and it looks like it's almost stuck on his face. So it's always a pleasure watching these animals. We're just watching them do what they would do. We don't place any expectations on them. We don't ask anything of them. They come here, and it's a true sanctuary environment where they live out their lives in family groups, in social groups. We have prides of lions. We have groups of tigers, packs of wolves, many, many, many large habitats filled with lots of bears. There he goes. That was real easy once he got that hole in it to pop that one open. So you can kind of see our drone coming into view. We're kind of backing off a little bit, and looks like things are kind of winding down, at least with this fella here. He's been a pleasure to watch. It's been a pleasure to share you with him as he enjoys some of the pumpkins that we provide our animals here in the fall months. And as always, we appreciate the Dodo for allowing us to provide you with these live videos and to let you know what's going on here at the Wild Animal Sanctuary outside of Denver, Colorado. We are on the high eastern plains of Colorado, so we just naturally don't have many trees here. We plant hundreds a year, but it takes a long time for them to grow, and animals are tough on them, and we only get about 11 inches of moisture a year, but we have lots and lots of shade structures, underground dens, and things for the animals, so they do great here. And they really love it because they get to hibernate. And so before too long, we won't be seeing any bears at all. And I think with that, we're kind of pulling away here. We're going to say goodbye as well. Just like before long, we'll be saying goodbye to these bears. So we appreciate everyone watching us today, and we wish you all the best. We'll see you on our next live shot. Thank you.